The Legend of Zelda series contains some of the most beautiful video games in history. To me, this is a fact. Whether it be the polygonal immersion of the N64 classics, the cartoony whimsicality of Wind Waker, or Twilight Princess's exaggerated realism, almost every Zelda game looks stunning, besides these of course.
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
What's odd is that all of these art styles work, and not only that, they fit the series perfectly. So what enables Zelda games to take on so many forms and successfully try their hand at a plethora of art styles? To me, it comes down to the emotion of the series, and more importantly, how developers and artists pour their energy and love into this franchise's soul. The earliest you can trace Zelda's art back is of course the NES classic, The Legend of Zelda. This title had a big role in establishing what the series was about and the tone of the world, which when paired with the ancient hardware by today's standards, made it a challenge on developers. In the end, the art for the original 1986 Zelda game takes the form of an isometric 3D world, accented by pixelated graphics and music. The art itself seems to be leaning more towards fantasy and escapism, rather than an attempt at realism, with vibrant colours, diverse landscapes, and wacky characters constructing this world. It definitely does the job at establishing what Zelda is about, and would pave the path for the series' future. The next title, Adventure of Link, would largely remain the same as the debut. The only major differences between the two consist of the divisive change to a side-scrolling 2D, and what seems to be an attempt at pushing the series towards more realistic aspects, seen through how humans take on more lifelike characteristics, and environments become less vibrant. But as the years rolled by, and no Zelda game was seen for 4 years, it was a shock when Nintendo came back with A Link to the Past. Heading into the 90s, it seemed that Nintendo wanted to go for a more traditional fantasy style to Zelda, likely due to the phenomenon of things such as Dungeons and Dragons pushing this style. And with this new take on the series, a fitting new art style came. It was a lot more stylised than previous efforts, relying on vibrant colours to pop and set environments apart, whether that be the beige yellows of sandy areas, or the green tiles in nature encompassing Kakariko Village. It's clear Nintendo were developing a personality for The Legend of Zelda at this point. Characters appear more complex, with fitting personalities that can be seen through their choice of colours, such as green for Link's courage, and the sprite-based graphics are praised as some of the best of the 2D era. This would extend into later isometric 3D releases, such as the Oracle games, which largely follow the same art style, shrunk down to fit onto handheld platforms. Another distinguishing feature of this era is the addition of a now series staple, whimsical characters. Whether it be the random NPCs you encounter, or side quest givers, each character seems to have a distinct style, accentuated by the art. The following release, Link's Awakening, would take this idea further with a game that feels like a borderline fever dream, with characters such as the shopkeeper or Windfish, who would usually feel out of place in a Zelda game, feeling perfectly at home with the according cartoony art style and environments. The magic of this Game Boy classic effortlessly personifies the ability the Zelda franchise has to shapeshift art styles to fit the game. But with a modern remake completely differing, how does this new art style compare? Despite being the same game, Link's Awakening Remake has a vastly different art style. It consists of cutesy characters paired with minimalistic, childlike graphics. The environments are your typical forest, swamp, desert, and so on, really making this game feel like a Mario title. I think Nintendo definitely achieved the childlike innocence they wanted to with this title, and that's what I believe makes every Zelda art style work. Their ability to capture the essence and emotions of the story the game is telling. The art isn't there just to look pretty, it also shapes the personality and feelings we get when playing these games, which makes it so pivotal and is why these various art styles work. To further support this point, look no further than the jump to 3D in the series with Ocarina of Time, a title that sets out to achieve a sense of grand adventure, yet have subtle tones and themes of the fear of growing up, the struggle of loneliness, and the various landscapes seen in the game. The art style captures this perfectly, with a blend of realism, or at least as realistic as the N64 could look, but also the dreamlike environments that occupy Hyrule. It's the perfect amalgamation of innocent youth and the responsibility of growing up, which are core themes of Ocarina of Time. But it's not all about the graphics. How they're used in context and the surrounding environments is also crucial. Look no further than Majora's Mask, which uses the same art as Ocarina of Time, yet evokes a completely different feeling and emotion. The hopeful grandness of Link's previous adventure is now replaced by a hopeless melancholy as people accept their defeat to the swiftly descending moon. Despite having what is essentially the polar opposite story and themes, the art of Majora's Mask adapts. The soft spots that reminded you of home and youth in Ocarina of Time are now replaced by the unknown, usually something dark that asks you to weigh up the reality of how harsh life can be at times. Replacing the environments, main colours, and the introduction of the unknown is what makes Majora's Mask's artwork so well, despite sharing the same graphics as Ocarina of Time. Nintendo obviously couldn't stick with these graphics for the next title, and after the criticism of Majora's Mask for being so dark and depressing, they opted for something more cheerful and innocent with an art style to reflect. Enter the era of cell shading. The main title most people will know cell shading from is Wind Waker. This game is a story of family and feels like the sense of adventure you'd get when exploring a forest as a child. One of the reasons this can be attributed to, and what reflects this feeling, is the art style. Cell shading by definition makes things look cartoony, which is what you relate with being a child. The diverting from realism enables these games, such as Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, to maintain a somewhat happy, not so serious story, whilst capturing the sense of adventure crucial to a Zelda game. A prime example to show this is the Forsaken Fortress. In almost all other Zelda entries, this place would be terrifying, with all the moblins wandering around and the stealth you have to implement. You think it would be nail biting, but to be honest, that isn't what the game wanted. It serves as Link's first hurdle, and with this being a game of hope and adventure, the art style loses this fear aspect to push you further into the quest with more confidence. If you want to talk about Zelda inducing fear, look no further than the next entry. Completely juxtaposing this, Nintendo's next entry into the series was Twilight Princess, the most realistic looking Zelda game, with arguably the deepest, most serious and dark story. The game is filled with dark colours, and despite a few colourful characters and areas, even they have washed colours in their design. The in-between of dusk and dawn, the twilight hours, are the main aspect of Twilight Princess, and the cell shading of Wind Waker wouldn't work with this, hence the switch up. In fact, you can compare two parts from both art styles, the possession of Zelda in Twilight Princess and the possession of Zelda in Spirit Tracks. While she does look unsettling in Spirit Tracks, that wasn't the intention of the game, whereas Twilight Princess's possessed Zelda had a deeply unnerving look to her due to the more serious art style. Yet both games achieve what they want to do, and that is the final reason I think that all these Zelda art styles work. They constantly change and innovate, just like the games themselves. This gives a breath of fresh air into every entry of the series, making them uniquely themselves, unlike many franchises where it can become just another entry. My favourite of all the art styles comes from Skyward Sword. The game's main gimmick is motion controls, meaning to control your sword, or anything for that matter, you have to move the controller with your hands in a motion similar to painting a soft stroke. To parallel this, the art style is in the form of many soft paint brush strokes, with little detail up close but the illusion of a detailed oil painting from far away. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to help me making these videos, and stay tuned for the next one. In the meantime, check out the video in the middle to watch more of my content. But for now, goodbye.